Welcome back, football fans, to another edition of Football Grumps Lunch Break. I'm going to be going over wide receiver rankings today, and I'm going to try and do my best to keep this brief while also covering as many people as possible. I already have a video on day one guys, so I'm going to stay especially brief on that. Check that out if you're interested in a lot of details as to my rankings there. I did make a shakeup, but let's jump right into it. Be sure to like, subscribe, tell a friend, etc. Day one, guys, I moved Jackson Smith and Njigba off of the list. The speed concerns for me and the injury last year, it's enough for me to say I don't want to use a first-round pick on it. I know that this ranking system and the way I look at guys is based on their traits and where I value them, not where I think they will go. But I have to knock some of that value off for that. I mean, the speed concerns could have been alleviated with a 40 time at the combine, but he didn't do it. But whatever. So before we get into JSN, Zay Flowers is my number one guy. Love him. Think that he represents the elite in what the NFL is looking for now at receiver. Might be shorter, might be lighter, but if he can get separation and he has the speed and the hands to do it, it doesn't really matter. The instances in which his length will be an issue are going to be few and far between in the right schemes. And I think the NFL is trending towards more and more of those offensive schemes that we see out of like the Rams, etc. And the Giants for that matter with Brian Daboll. Quentin Johnston's my number two guy, 6'4", 215. He's outstanding. Biggest issue with him is I do think that sometimes he jumps for no reason. And he could keep getting better at the release point as well, but there's a lot of things there. He can continue to develop. I don't think that all of the flaws that you see on tape are permanent. I do think that he can continue to get better, and he represents that prototypical length that you want at wide receiver. Jordan Addison is somebody that I really, really like. I know there are mixed opinions. Some people like him even more than me. Some people are down on him. I like him right about here. I think late first round is right where I would have him. Back to Jackson Smith and Njigba at the top of my day two guys. Buttery smooth route runner, really good sudden cuts, good hands, really good body control. I mean, the yak ability is really what makes him fun to watch and special. But it's just the health and availability and commitment issues, if there are any. All that kind of stuff, I'm not trying to knock him down. I'm just saying I think you can clear up a lot of those things through interviews, which I can't do. So since I can't interview, I have to just assume the worst, or at least that shadow of doubt over me is enough to push him down a little bit. But as far as a receiver goes, he's fantastic. The speed concerns are the concerns. He can still be effective in short spaces, and that's certainly a critical thing for NFL offenses. And defenses, for that matter, to shut that down. So he'll still be an asset, long speed or otherwise. And maybe his long speed is fine. Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati was somebody I was a little bit late on with everybody else. I really like Tyler Scott. I'm gonna do a separate video about a couple of guys that are all sort of similar and I like a lot. They're all gonna be mostly day two guys, and Tyler Scott's one of them. He shifty, quick twitch receiver. He's got the deep speed ability too. On the shorter side, this is going to be like the general thing with these guys that are all kind of similar. On the shorter side, on the lighter side. 5'10", 177 for Tyler Scott. He's got legit ability to stretch the field in addition to being a slot receiver. This might seem a little bit high for him, but it's a lot of upside. I believe he only played the position for 2 years. So you can see what his... I guess if you wanted to turn on a highlight tape of his, they might not be overly impressive, but it's all natural ability. Just natural ability. And I know that Cincinnati is a recent college... I don't want to say powerhouse, but... I don't know, whatever. National championship competitor, at least. It's still not NFL coaching. Not even close. So I do think that there's a ton of upside with Tyler Scott, and that pushes him way up to the top of day two. A lot of these guys that I'm about to mention, they're mostly in a row now. They're very similar, and you could kind of mix and match based on what traits you value over others, and that's going to be the crux of the other video I'm going to do, so I'm not going to elaborate too much. But Charlie Jones from Purdue is another one I think I'm probably more high on than other people. I like him, fleet-footed, polished slot receiver. He's got the deep speed, in my opinion, but I don't know that he has the quickness. He does have the ball skills. I mentioned in the cornerbacks video that he gave Joey Porter a ton of problems. My main reason for that being a big issue is that he does not really get a ton of separation. He's very sudden, but I think his quickness is just about average or just slightly above average, to the point where a good corner can make up that separation ground fairly quickly, except Joey Porter couldn't, or at least struggled to in their one matchup. I don't want to overanalyze something, but more sudden and elusive than quick. He knows how to get the separation using all the tools he has, which may not include quickness, and that's kind of a problem. But he does have deep speed ability. He can catch just about anything thrown his way, wins contested catches, and can be an effective slot receiver as well. I really, really like Charlie Jones. I might even like this guy more. In fact, I might like him more than anybody else, any other analyst. Jaden Reed from Michigan State, I think, is fantastic and is underrated and is looked over because he doesn't do one thing particularly special, but I think everything he does is close to above average. I mean, 5'11", 187, he's already a little bit heavier. He's got a good frame for that size. Charlie Jones, 10 pounds lighter, same height. So, I mean, that's certainly something that gives him an advantage. I think he's a better blocker than most of the other wide receivers, especially for his height. He appears shorter than 5'11" to me. He appears smaller. It might just be he's small in comparison to Michigan State offensive players. But another one that's a shifty and precise route runner. He can also stretch the field deep. He can work underneath. He can work on screens. I like that he attacks the ball in the air really well. I think that he can play bigger than his size as well. Like I said, he looks shorter than 5'11". 5'11" is not really all that short for a wide receiver these days, anyway. But he can win contested catches, and I think he has. Well, he doesn't have the elite, elusive yak ability that somebody like JSN will have. I think that he has a good ability to continue to break tackles, keep plays alive, bounce around. I think he's good. There's a couple concerns. His hips are a little bit tight. I don't know if that's something that can be improved over time. I think it might be. He's quicker than he is fast, which is not a huge concern for me. I've made my love affair with Tank Dell fairly public, going way back to before the Senior Bowl. He's outstanding. I mean, a really rare mix of quick twitch, slot receiver, and deep speed. Really polished route running. Exceptional hands. He can also return punts. He's dangerous in the open field. Really good body control along the sideline. My only concern is 5'8" and 163 is just really damn short. And there is no doubt in my mind that he can play at this level. Whether or not he gets the opportunity is one thing, and another thing is whether or not at what point a team wants to take that shot on him. I personally think that the right offense can make this work. I don't look at Tank Dell and see Tutu Atwell from Louisville a couple of years ago, or last year even. I don't even remember. I think it was a couple of years ago. I see somebody totally different. I see a gamer who just is unfortunately 5'8". Tutu Atwell to me was like a fast athlete that was short, not a legitimate wide receiver that's short. I really, really like him. We'll see where he lands. I have a day 2 grade on him. Raheem Jarrett's another one of these guys, but he is 6 feet, 192. Now, this is more good frame size. Wild deep speed at 4.4 speed. To me, he's an all-around athlete, and Maryland tried to make him something he wasn't. I don't think Maryland fully utilized what he could do. He's also one of the more difficult guys that I tried to analyze. I don't think the Wan'Dale Robinson kind of thing is for him, where they had him running all kinds of jet sweeps and stuff. I don't think that's him. I just don't. I think that he should use his quickness in route running. I think he should get better at being a wide receiver. Obviously, this is a bit of a gamble right there because how he played in college is probably not how he's going to play in the NFL. I personally didn't think he was even that effective doing what they had him doing at Maryland. But who am I to judge? Maryland was a fairly competitive team for the Big Ten this year. I think at the next level, he's going to need to learn a lot more. I think Maryland set him back a little bit. He'll need to learn more routes, be able to put his quickness to use, get every single step of the route down to a science, to second nature. It's going to need to be crisper. It's going to need to be more polished to make up for quickness that I think is average, which I also think is one of the reasons why he's not effective behind the line of scrimmage. But I do think he's talented enough to develop as a legitimate wide receiver. Josh Downs, UNC, another one. Shorter guy, slot guy, shifty slot receiver, good route running, good deep speed. For him, he's a little bit further down. Consistency with his hands at the catch point and attacking the ball in the air, that's not really something he does all the time. I think at times he struggles to get separation. His quickness might be the most average of the group. And on top of that, lack of length. 5'9" is now dipping to very short. But I do think there's a spot for him in the NFL. I don't know that Josh Downs is going to develop into anyone as impactful as, say, like Jamison Crowder, that Washington grabbed from Duke years back. Who's on the Giants now? I actually forgot about that. I don't think he'll develop to that level of effectiveness, but I do think that there's probably a spot for him in the NFL. And this is now dipping too close to the end of day 2. I could see him slipping to day 3, but I don't think he will. Jalen Hyatt is another one that's really difficult for me to analyze. I know some people have him super high. I think some nut job probably has him as like the first guy off the board. He may even be. I'm not going to guess. Tennessee did not run him as a wide receiver. I don't think he's had a catch where he was not given a free release at Tennessee off the line. I need to see some route tree work. I need to see him actually be a wide receiver, because right now I see Deshaun Jackson's speed, but with only go routes and like comeback routes off of it. And all of them involve him just already at top speed before a corner is even on him. And I just don't think NFL defenses are going to let that happen. Now, does he have the tools to be a super athletic, effective NFL wide receiver? I don't know, because speed is not the only tool necessary. I need to see that route running, that start and stop ability, using your hands, getting off of releases, body fakes, head fakes. I need to see more. I am very tentative on taking a wild swing like this. I just think that there's too much wide receiver talent out there that's a wide receiver to take such a high value risk on a guy like this. Now, if he dips, now this is why I do this, where I like kind of give guys day value, where if you wake up on day 3 and you're like, oh, this guy's still here, I don't really care where he's supposed to go. If he's still there, I'm seeing day 2 talent that can be developed. Day 3, it's okay to take that swing, in my opinion, if you're looking for a wide receiver. Rashee Rice, SMU, was a heartthrob for a lot of people before, I would say before the playoffs were over for the NFL. I don't know that he made a great name for himself. But you know what? He went to the Senior Bowl and he had some struggles on the first 2 days, and on that third day, he did not look so bad. He's big and long, 6'1", 204. He's not one of those guys in that group. He wins contested catches really well. He can test deep and go up and get it. And I think he looks pretty good in the open field too. I think that his route running is going to need to get better at the NFL. Sometimes he rounds them out. But mostly I think that, at least at SMU, I don't know if it's his fault, but there seemed to be an over-reliance on the go route, jump balls, and then like comeback routes off of it. That's like the majority of what his production was there. I am worried about a lack of separation against man corners that might render him completely ineffective. I still really like Rashee Rice. I don't want to say that I don't, but I don't think it's all that surprising that he might end up in round 3, round 4. Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. I actually do really like Marvin Mims. I think he goes into this group of similar sized guys, whatever. But working downfield, getting behind the defense with really, really insane speed, 4.38 40 time. Excellent hands. He works the sidelines well. Those are really his traits. 5'11", 182. I think he really does need to expand the route tree. I don't know if it's just the way Oklahoma does offense, because I don't really pay that much of attention to Oklahoma. I don't know if their quarterback, which I think is Dylan Gabriel, sucks. It certainly looks like he's not that good. But I didn't see enough of him as a wide receiver. It seemed like a lot of him just kind of running. And I don't know if it's because of those things or if it's because he lacks some kind of NFL quickness, because he might. I think that his ability to stretch the field well and win physical matchups despite his size is interesting. He can win in tight windows as well, but that does make it hard for me to place him at 5'11". I have to think that he goes on day 2. I'm just not sure where. He's certainly got some traits you can't teach, like really good hands and 4.38 speed. I could see him going way higher than I have him listed. I'm just more tentative, I guess, because I'm a Giants fan, and I want to make sure my picks are good picks, not guys who could bust out or flame out. Kayshon Boutte, LSU. I have him at the very end of day 2. Could easily see him slipping to day 3. Injury history with 2 surgeries to his ankle. Had a clear effect on his 2022 average speed. I do think he's an polished route runner. He's an experienced route runner. He has good hands and body control. I do think that being special in the open field is what makes him a name, other than the helmet he wears. He's obviously soured on more than just me. Lots of people have soured on him. He looks just average with long speed. I believe he tested average with long speed. His suddenness in and out of breaks, they don't wow. I'd like to see him winning more tight window catches to show he can be effective, but he may not. Cedric Tillman, I'm going to switch over to day 3 here. I could see Cedric Tillman going to day 2. I guess I ultimately landed him here. It's probably where he belongs, in round 4. But I could see him being a day 2 guy if a team really likes him. And I don't know. That's kind of how third-round picks work, especially when they are compensatory, right? So team has a second, third-round pick. Why not? Reach a little bit. It's okay. It's expendable. Cedric Tillman from Tennessee, 6'3", 213. I think that he's going to be a solid number 3 wide receiver, probably the second outside option. He could even develop himself to being like a number 2 option. I think he needs to run a more complicated route tree. That Tennessee offense was stupid, at least from an NFL standpoint. It certainly helped him win. The above average length will help him win in contested catches. I think he's got good hands. My biggest thing with him is, and this could be a product of the Tennessee offense. I hate doing this, but like, even if it is a product of the offense, it's still on him to do this. If the play is going to the other side of the field, you can see several instances of him just kind of like standing up, taking 3 steps, and that's it. Like, I know it's not a big deal, but I would like to at least see you fake it. You don't know what's going to happen at the snap. The snap could go over the quarterback's head, and he might have to pick up the ball, scramble, and look for anything. You should be ready. I don't like seeing that. But it's also, I don't know, is he an asshole or is it just coaching? Will an NFL coach get that out of him on day 1? Could be. Parker Washington from Penn State, 5'10", 204. I like him. Shifty, elusive slot receiver. Tough at the catch point. Likes to break tackles. My biggest problem with him is I don't see him win enough at the line of scrimmage against press coverage either. I do think that there's a chance his speed and tools will be just average at the NFL level, but I don't know. I also think he can be developed. I think the right offense can utilize him despite that. I don't think he's clearly this low because he's not super quick, going to be a game changer for an offense, but I do think that he can come in, fill a few days, maybe 6 weeks, and be okay. Remember, the Giants got by with Richie James for a very long time, who was super, super effective. And yeah, I mean, they don't have to be household names to be effective in the right offense. So guys like this is great value on day 3. Richie James was not the leading receiver for the Giants, but he was certainly clutch, and he was like in the top 3. Ronnie Bell from Michigan, I actually thought I would like more. I liked him more during the season, and as I compiled him against other wide receivers, I liked him a little bit less. But 6 feet, 191. He's interesting because he's what I would consider frustrating for defense because he's just such a good chain mover running across the middle of the field and finding soft spots. He, in that way, sort of reminds me of the other Steve Smith that the Giants had in like the 2009 era post Plaxico Burress and that 07 Super Bowl's rookie year. Whatever, doesn't matter. That's really what he was especially good at, was just finding soft spots in zones, getting across the middle, and just making those tight window catches. He was very good at that stuff. The difference is he had like no open field moves, and Ronnie Bell does. Another one that I need to see him winning again at the line of scrimmage against press coverage more. So Jalen Moreno Cropper, I believe is his name now. I had him as Jalen Cropper for like a full year. I guess he changed his name. 5'11", 172. I actually really like this dude. I think he might surprise. He's a superior route runner with excellent hands, really good ball skills, good fakes, not a lot of wasted steps. He's got strong hands, good high pointing ability at 5'11". That's important. 4.4 speed to stretch the field. I think he just needs to get stronger. 172, I think, is not him being too light. I think it's being too unmuscular, I guess. I think that he should work on getting stronger and be a little bit more dominant at the release. And that will involve adding some moves to his repertoire, but also I think getting stronger will help him and using his hands a little bit more. But at the catch point, in the open field, when running his route, he's not bad. I think that this is a guy that might surprise and be taken and just kind of looked over. I'm sure, 5 or 6 people will be like, oh man, I really liked him for my team. And then he might actually have really productive years in the NFL. Maybe not year 1, maybe not even year 2, but I don't know. That's just the feeling I get. Of course, it depends on where you get drafted. Mario Williams from USC. Not as much of a fan of him as I was the other guys that are a lot like him. Good foot speed. He's got crafty route work. I think he works the underneath stuff pretty well. I think he understands how to exploit zone coverage on him. But I still think he struggles to gain separation. And I think it's evident. I think there's tons of video evidence of it. And I also think at his size, he really is pigeonholed to the slot. And if you can't get separation at the slot, I don't know what your purpose is. Maybe you're, really good at contested catches. No, not really. Maybe you're a really good blocker. Definitely not. Down on Mario Williams. I do think that he's got tools you can get something out of, but I wouldn't shoot for him before day 3. Jonathan Mingo, I think, is somebody that a lot of people are really high on, and I can see why. I'm going to be a little bit lower on him because I'm going to go on his abilities as they are now. He's an upside guy that, unlike Tyler Scott, where you can see it's just natural ability and he's got, insanity all over the place. Mingo suffered from that Ole Miss offense, which is kind of silly. But he's 6'2", 220, and muscular. His 40 time, 4.46. I think what makes me like Jonathan Mingo a lot is I think it's pretty evident that you can tell he's worked on his craft. He's only averagely quick. And Ole Miss, they run that weird offense, and they put him in like the big slot position. They put him in like H-back positions, sometimes in line Y tight end. Fuck all that. Don't do that to this guy. He works really hard. He's a decent blocker. He's not exceptional. I think he uses his hands well along routes. I think he has quality footwork. I think he is good at the release point, so he should not be lining up in a 3-point stance, in my opinion. I think his catch radius is nuts. I think that he works back to the ball and he adjusts his body to make awkward catches well. I like what he brings as a wide receiver. He doesn't have a ton of experience at it. Ole Miss didn't really use him that way. So I'm a little bit... I think that some of his experience with stuff is misplaced, and he should have had more experience on things he needed. Like, he rounds out his cuts sometimes. Sometimes he body catches. I think at the break point in routes, his somewhat average quickness and suddenness can be aided with other kinds of moves, head fakes, arm fakes, leaning, tempo adjustments throughout the route. I think he can use things that he doesn't know how to use yet to make up for that, and I think he'll get better. I do think that he's going to have, like, a while to adjust to the NFL, though. So I'm going to put him a little bit lower because I think you have to account for rookie contracts, and you might only get, like, a year or two of good production from him before it's time to re-up him or worry about a fifth-year option if you're going to go from the first or whatever. I'm going to take that into account and place him a little bit into day 3. And I also think that the wrong team might just continue his big slot shit, which I don't really like. A.T. Perry from Wake Forest, someone I was on for a long time now. 6'3", 200. He's shorter than Wake Forest listed by 2 inches. I thought he had some insane length. He doesn't. It's just, above average. But he does have rare speed and length as a combination. 6'3" and fast. He's a decent route runner. I think that his issue is that he takes a little bit of time to reach that top speed, and his quickness is lacking. But I do think that he's a fast, tall third option in an offense that's valuable. And I think right off the bat, he'll be a guy off the bench in his first year. He certainly has a lot of growing to do at the NFL level, but I do think he can be effective year 1 in depth situations and can eventually bring himself up to be a pretty average starter. Jake Bobo from UCLA. Do I want to talk about him? I don't know. He's kind of like A.T. Perry, but with just really good length and hands and whatever speed and quickness, I think. He is really good in those contested catch situations, so if that's something you're looking for or a team needs, I could see him going. Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State was another one that was way higher on my draft board at the beginning of the process and just catapulted down. And by the beginning of the draft process, I mean before this year, before the 2022 season. I think the biggest thing that drives me crazy is he doesn't stay on his feet after the catch consistently. Just leaves his feet for no reason. It's like the dumbest way to slow you down, and also potentially affect your balance. It's silly. Guys that can understand how to adjust their speed to make sure that they're on their feet and in stride at the catch point. Apparently, that's like an incredibly learned skill because very few guys do it, and Hutch doesn't do it. I think at the NFL, his speed and quickness might be just average, and he might just be an outside possession receiver. But he does win contested catches pretty well. I think he does have some value. Maryland's Dante Demas, kind of the same. He's going to be Kenny Golladay type-ish. He's going to go down, go up and get it. Stop his start slow. He's going to struggle to get separation. All the things that you've heard before about Kenny Golladay. But he does have the ideal length. He can stretch the field. I think he wins contested catch as well. His route running needs more polish. I don't know, man. This is one of those things that's frustrating about Maryland is that, like, Dante Demas was a big part of their production, and Raheem Jarrett was, I don't know, playing in the backfield half the time. Puka Nacua from BYU, I think he was day 1. I think he was like the most impressive wide receiver at the Senior Bowl for whatever team he was on. I don't remember if he was American International. Doesn't matter. Point is, he was the best of the group that he was in. Tall, natural receiver, good hands. He's physical to win against tight coverage. I think that his route running needs to be more refined. I think he struggled to gain legit separation against better competition. I think he rounds out his routes at times. I think he can lack suddenness. I just get worried. Sometimes when I watch him, I just feel like he's not that fast or quick, and he just looks that way because he gets a lot of free releases. When he doesn't, I mean, it's BYU, dude. Like, sometimes they're playing Idaho State or Georgia Southern, and they're still in lockstep with him. That's a problem for me. I have a legit fear that he may just be a product of a bullshit BYU offense. And you know what? With the last few guys here, I'm not really going to go into them other than Bryce Ford Wheaton from West Virginia. West Virginia seems to be churning out like tall, fast wide receivers that are just not going to cut it at the NFL. But I actually feel a little bit better about Bryce Ford Wheaton. 6'4", 221, 4.38 speed is blazing fast. That's not just fast. That's blazing fast. you add that to the above average length, and you might get something that can do something at the NFL level. Again, way down on the list because he needs to learn a more complicated route tree than what he did there. I think he also needs to refine his contested catch ability because it's going to be his ace in the hole, I think, at the NFL level. He needs to learn how to add strength, obviously. Although I don't think he's that far off. 5, maybe 10 pounds, probably looking more 5 to 7 pounds of muscle added. But he could get better body position in certain things, wall off defenders better, track the ball a little bit better in the air. All things that he can work on and to be effective at the NFL level. The remaining guys, Jarius Jenkins, Mitchell Tinsley, Jaden Hazelwood. I also did Miles Price from Texas Tech. I couldn't figure out if he was even going to declare for the draft to return to Texas Tech. I searched for like 10 minutes, couldn't figure it out, gave up, don't care, because he was my last listed wide receiver. I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to add a comment, disagree with me, agree with me. Reach out to me on Twitter at @football_grump. Reach out to me on Instagram. I think it's the same thing, at @football_grump. Should probably figure that out before I say things. If you're a Giants fan and you don't know of my podcast, check out my podcast, Just Giants, it's in the description below. And I will see you guys in a couple of days with that other video on wide receivers. Have a good one.